Hi everyone, this is Anna Finch from Finch Press Publishing. Hope everyone's had a good day. Now today's video is a book review on Damsel by Elana K Arnold. Now I actually got this novel through the blind date with the YA book at Robinson's bookshop. So what this basically is you don't see the cover of the book, so the book's actually wrapped up in a thick paper or coloured paper, and you can't actually see what's behind the actual paper, and you only have three keywords to go by. So they only have three keywords on the front. Now this one had the three words dark fairy tale retelling. As soon as I saw that, I'm like, yep, grab it. And it did fit those keywords. I found this book actually fit the keywords. Now, luckily, when I picked it up and I checked it, it also had on the back in Texter, or on the back of the paper in Texter, 17 plus, to give a bit of a warning to say people under this age shouldn't read it. And the fact they did that was actually smart. And a good idea, because it tells you what sort of content is in there, and it's helpful because I'm in my 20s, but if someone 15 walked into a bookshop or 13 walked into a bookshop, saw the word fairy tale and dark retelling, they may have picked it up, and it may not have been suitable because of the content. So the fact they put 17 plus on the back was a good thing. So, Damsel, and I love the cover, by the way. I would have definitely picked it up if I saw it in the bookshop, besides the blind date program. So, Damsel is... So, I'm just going to read the blurb. So, it's a dark fairy tale retelling. So, the right has existed for as long as anyone can remember. When the prince who will be king comes of age, he must venture out into the grey lands, slay a fierce dragon, and rescue a damsel to be his bride. This is the way things have always been. When Arma wakes in the arms of Prince Emery, however, she knows none of this. She has no memory of what came before she was captured by the dragon, or what horrors she has faced in its lair. She knows only this handsome prince, the story he tells of her rescue, and her destiny to sit on the throne beside him. Amma comes with Emery back to the kingdom of Harding, hailed as the new princess, welcomed to the court. However, as soon as her first night falls, she begins to realise that not all is what it seems. There is more to the legends of dragons and damsels than anyone knows, and that the greatest threats to her life may not be behind her, but here, in front of her. So that's the blurb. Now, bit of a summary. Now, I am going to talk spoilers, but before I go into the detailed review, just some trigger warnings. Okay, now this book has content that is a bit explicit at times, despite the flowery type of language, and the book actually contains issues that are not appropriate for young kids. Okay? The warning on the book, on the wrapping, not inside the book, because the book doesn't actually have any warnings, but what was written on the cover of 17 plus, I find is appropriate. Now, this book, and this is the trigger warnings, has rape, and I'm not just talking about mentions of it, but it's at times it is explicit. Attempted rape, okay, or attempted sexual assault. There's graphic sexual assault, which may not involve actual penetration. Okay, rape culture, including victim blaming. Okay, there's physical and mental abuse, gaslighting, which is when people try to suggest that what you've seen is not the reality. So the gaslighting is an issue where the abuser makes the victim, or makes their victim believe that what they're seeing is not correct. It should make them question their own mind, their own suggestions, and it's horrific because it basically makes a person believe that their sight or their reality is not real, and that only what the abuser is saying is real. It has mentions of suicide. That can get it doesn't show or describe the actual suicide itself, but it does talk about the suicide of one of the characters, or one of the prior characters. There's also animal abuse in this, and at the end there's mentions of bestiality. I guess it's called bestiality. So just a heads up, if any of those issues trigger you, or if any of those issues make you uncomfortable, then do not read this book. If any of those issues make you uncomfortable, do not read this book. Okay? The book itself is well written, and I enjoyed it, but some things did make me uncomfortable. And I've mentioned those triggers so that if for any reason you would like to read this book, maybe you saw the cover and you liked it, and the blurb was interesting and you wanted to read it. If any of those issues would trigger you, don't read it. Okay? That's as serious as I can make it. Don't read it if any of those issues can trigger you, can trigger flashbacks, or can make you feel uncomfortable. And I mean really uncomfortable. Don't read it. Okay? That's the biggest warning I can give, and I still haven't gotten to the review part. Now, the concept, so this book takes the concept of a damsel in distress and the knight in shining armor that rescues her, and basically turns it on its head. So the start of the book, or the premise of the book, is similar to Sleeping Beauty, in that the prince comes and rescues the damsel, who's believed to be a princess, takes her back. The Princess Arma, she doesn't have a name. He names her. So even she can't choose her name because he names her. Arma, she's a blank slate. She doesn't understand anything. She knows that there's something wrong with the situation, doesn't know quite what. And she questions it. She wants things that are her own. She desires certain things. And the prince, Emery, I'm just going to be straight up, he's an asshole. Like, seriously. I mean, the characters are well written. Don't get me wrong. They're well written. And the parts they play in the book are well written. But Emery, he's arrogant. Now, I know princes are meant to be, like royalty's meant to be a bit uppity, but he's arrogant, cocky, full of himself. He's not a likable character. Now, that's in his own personal chapters, when it's his perspective. When you get the perspective of Arma, at times he seems charming, kind, but then you get the opposite. Controlling, manipulative, cruel. Okay? Now, the author has done a good job showing abuse and how, like, abuse affects the mentality of the individual, and how maybe in certain situations they may not feel like they have anyone to go to. And in this case, Alma has no memory of any family. She doesn't remember her family. She doesn't remember anything. She knows nothing. She's a complete blank slate. And she's trying to discover herself and figure out who she is. But there are things in her way, particularly Emery, and the other members of the castle. Now, the story itself, so the plot and how Alma is slowly, and the plot itself, after the first two or so chapters, the plot itself is fairly calm. It's not, it's more about Alma discovering who she is rather than like battles and things like that. So it's not action packed, and it's definitely not a romance. I don't know if they've put it in that category, but it's definitely not a romance in any way. Okay, anyone who thinks it's a romance is kidding themselves, because nothing in this book is romantic, and there are things in there that are disgusting. Now, if you think about Alma as a character, she's basically got amnesia. And she's fairly childlike in her discoveries of certain things, because she has no memories. And she's discovering the world, like, from the moment she wakes up. Now, people keep on taking advantage of her. She has no choice in anything. Whenever she tries to make a choice, someone is there and stops her, or in Emery's case, humiliates her by putting a collar and leash around her neck and then dragging her through the palace while others laugh, because she went outside to just get a breath of fresh air and happened to talk with a guy. And then turns around and says, "Oh, it's just fun. It's just blah, blah." No, like, you feel sympathy with Alma. You want her to make a choice. Honestly, after that moment, I wanted her to stab Emery in the throat. So character-wise, the way they show their dynamic and the power dynamic between the person who's rescued the prince and the princess, which does fit with the time period that it's set in, the time period that most fairy tales are set in. The power dynamic fits with the time period. The way they show the power dynamic and how the abuser takes power away, and that's the main point with abuse and things like sexual assault. It's meant to take power away from someone else, whether they're male or female. Now, the male characters are heavily misogynistic. The way they present women in an old-fashioned way, which, again, fits with the time period. It's a fairy tale. It's a retelling of a fairy tale set within a time period with knights and things like that. So it fits. But it presents women as, and I'm quoting this, vessels to be filled. Meaning the only purpose women have is, in this, according to the male characters in the book and according to the other characters in the book, is to basically just lay there and take whatever the man says. And basically the only purpose is to have a kid and to be there for the man. That is it. Alma goes against the grain. She's being forced into acting like a damsel, or like the women of the palace, and she tries to find things that are her own. She has a lynx that she found. It was just a kitten. She had it as a pet. She called it Sorrow, particularly after the emotion that she felt when Emery killed the lynx's mother. Which she then later named Fury when she released it, because she couldn't bear to watch it die in captivity. She named it Fury because the cat got freedom. She didn't. So honestly, the plot, while not action-packed as many fairy tales, or there is tension in the book, mainly based on the characters and the characters' interactions. Will Amma get free? Will the prince let her go? What's going to happen? Will she accept her fate? Will she defy it? So there is tension based on characters' interactions. And there are hints woven throughout to suggest who Amma is. And I already guessed it. The ending just confirmed it. So there's that woven in. So the plot's good. I enjoyed it. I read the book in about 2 hours. It's not a long read, but read it in about 2 hours. The plot was interesting. I was engaged in it. The characters, unlike 3 hours, the book 3 hours, I didn't see the characters as people. Emery was a stereotypical jackass of a prince who thinks he's charming. Amma was a damsel in distress. She was a stereotype at the beginning, but eventually got some sort of person. She eventually developed a personality, and then I went, yes, kick his ass. But I didn't see them as people. So the plot was good. The plot was really good and well structured. Characters were okay. I mean, the dynamic that the characters had was well done. The way they interacted with each other, and the way the issues that the book addresses were mentioned, were well presented. Just, I didn't see them as people. I wasn't invested in the characters beyond wanting to know what happens next, simply because of the plot. So the plot was more engaging than the characters. What else? Now, the ending was satisfying. Like, it was really satisfying. He threatened her. She told him. She worked out who she was. She remembered. She worked out that she was a dragon. She was the dragon at the start that he supposedly killed, that was turned into a woman. That he was basically forcing her to marry. She worked out she was a dragon. She told him, if you let me go, and you say you will not hunt Fury or the lynx, then I will leave in peace. I will do nothing against you. I will not harm you, won't do anything against you. Just let me leave. He hits her. She says, oh, go on. Hit me again. Goes to it. She cuts him right open. She kills him. She literally gets a piece of glass and just cuts him right through the middle. And basically leaves and becomes a dragon again. Honestly, the ending is perfect. I've been wanting her to kill Emery since the beginning, since he freaking dragged her around with a collar and a leash. So the ending, satisfying. Perfect ending. So characters, plot I've already talked about. The themes, the way they present issues, especially victim blaming and rape culture, how people put the blame on the victim. Now, in this case, the victim is, at least in the book, the victims are women. In reality, the victims can be men, women, non-binary. Victims can be anyone, regardless of gender. And things like rape culture and victim blaming affect everyone, not just women. It affects men too. The book presents the issues in a fairly one-sided way, in that the women are the victims in this, and the women are the ones subjected to the violence and abuse. Whereas in reality, it's both men and women. But again, because it's set in a time period where women's rights were non-existent, it fits, but the fact that I only address it from one side is an issue. Now, the book establishes itself, and it actually tells you on the blurb, like in one of the quotes, tells you that the book is feminist, or a feminist retelling. To a degree, it is. It's feminist in that women are... Here's the thing. When I think of feminism, I think of equal rights, equal treatment between both minds. The way it presents feminism as a way, like for the female character at least, as a way of getting power back, and taking back control of your own life, which is a powerful message. What I don't like is that all the male characters in this are complete and utter assholes, who honestly should have gotten their asses kicked, or should have been punished. Every single male character that has more than one line is a complete and utter jerk to women. Every single one. There are no male characters in this book that are presented in a way that's positive, that are presented in a way that shows that, one, not all women are victims, and two, that not all men are assholes. Okay? So, the fact that every single male character that has more than one line is a complete asshole, that controls everything, is damaging, and it's harmful. Now, the only male character in there, I mean, he's not an asshole, but he doesn't have a personality either, is the glassblower. So the one who makes the ice for the front, or for the walls of Harding. He allows Alma to learn how to make glass and to make objects from glass. Praises her for the things she makes. But he's only doing it because she's going to be queen. Not because he cares. Not because he wants to allow her to take power in her own life. He's just doing it because he's paid to do it. He's doing his job because he's been paid to do it, and he's letting her be there and help with to make some things from glass, so that she doesn't die from the cold. Because because you find out she's a dragon, she needs heat. So that he's the only male character that is not a jackass, but he's not an interesting character. He's just there. There's no real personality to him. He's seriously just there. So I can't, like, that's why I said that practically a female character that has more than one line is a complete asshole. It's because he's not really interacting much with the plot. He's basically just there so that Alma has a way to express herself, and so that she has the tools she needs to kill Emery at the end. That's it. So overall, I did enjoy the book. I found the way they presented certain issues were interesting. I would probably give it a 3.5 stars out of 5. The reason why I didn't give it 4 or 5 stars is because the way they present certain issues. I don't like the way they present male characters in this, in that they only present male characters as complete assholes who abuse women, and they don't give you any male characters who is in a more helpful role, or who stands up to the abuse, or who helps Alma in any way. So 3.5 stars. Now, curriculum wise, this is suitable for the curriculum, mainly for year 12. Year 12, which is senior year, and university or college. Okay, so year 12, which are for students who are 17, 18, and in some cases 19 years old in Australia. These are kids who are doing their VCE certificate, or GSC, or in England would be the A levels. It's their final course before they go to uni, or TAFE. I would not recommend it to anyone under 17. I definitely agree with it. No one under 17 should read this, because it deals with content and issues that are very serious, and content and issues that young children should not be dealing with. It's not appropriate for anyone under 17. If someone who's under 17 does read it, they do need to talk with someone afterwards. If they pick it up, because it is in the YA section of the bookshop, it's marketed as a YA book, so young adult book. Young adult books are generally marketed to people between 14 and 21. Now, again, generally marketed between 14 and 21. But typically speaking, most YA books are generally for people between 14, are written for people between 14 and maybe 16. Personally, this should have been marketed as an adult book, not a YA book, because if it is in the adult book or the adult fiction section of a bookstore, children or people who are under 16 generally won't go to the adult section. Some may, because they like that style of writing, but this should have been in the adult section, simply because of the content, not the YA section. In the YA section of a bookstore, because it's marketed as YA, you will have kids as young as maybe 12 going through the YA section, because it's right next to the children's section, and looking for books. They may be attracted to the cover, they may read the back and it seems interesting, and they're like, ooh, fairy tale. Like, how are they going to do it? And they'll pick it up. And there may be content in there that they don't understand, or that they're not mature enough to read. So this should have been in the adult section, first off, or marketed as an adult book. But it's been marketed as YA, so it'll be in the YA section. So anyone under 17 should not read this. If they do read it, if a person who's under 17 does read it, they should talk with an adult afterwards about the issues in this, because they may not be mature enough to understand all the issues in there. So they need to talk with an adult afterwards. I had to get that off my chest. Now, curriculum-wise, it is suitable for the English curriculum, particularly English or literature. Literature is basically the study of texts, and you analyze things like language, characterization. You look at language, you look at theories, like things like feminism, Marxism. You look at those theories and you examine a story through that lens. So curriculum-wise, this is suitable for the curriculum for year 12 and up, because you can analyze this text through the use of feminist theories, as well as things like communist theories, Marxist theories. You can analyze it through any theory. And that's what you basically are supposed to do in literature. You're supposed to analyze the books using a theory. So it is suitable for the curriculum. However, this book is about 2 years old. There are no chapter summaries available. There is no theme analysis available or character analysis for the novel. There are no resources available for this novel. The only thing I found that was even close to some sort of analysis was an article on metalphantasmreads.wordpress.com, okay, which basically summarizes the text and analyzes some things with content warnings and all that. But there are no resources for this. If a school decides to pick this up for BCE, for year 11, year 12, they will have to create they will have to create the resources themselves, the chapter summaries, the theme analysis, everything like that would need to be created themselves. And again, this should not be used for anyone under 17. 16 and up is pushing it, but preferably anyone over 7. No one under 17 should read it. 16 is just pushing it. So for curriculum, I would probably give it a 2 out of 5, because it can be good to read this and analyze it, and the way they present certain issues can be cause for discussion. But partly because of the content and the lack of resources, I didn't give it higher. Okay, that's pretty much it. I'm sorry for the long rant. But if you have read this book, let me know what you thought of it in the comments below. What did you think? What did you think about the story? What did you think about the issues presented and how they're presented? I'm interested to know. If you liked this video, press the like button, and if you want to be notified of when I upload new videos, hit the subscribe button. Okay, see you next time.